Hey, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm. Well, on this rural property, we heat mainly by wood stove. And from that arises one question really important to me, and I'll try to answer it in this video, which is it safe to use the wood ash that comes out of this stove in my garden? I'll try to answer that today. So the answer is that wood ash, when used properly, is not only safe to use in your landscape, but it's highly beneficial. It's really high in calcium and potassium. It's a good source of phosphorus, and then all sorts of other trace elements that are good for your garden. In addition to those benefits, it tends to deacidify your soil, so some plants really appreciate a raise in the pH, and it tends to have a long-lasting conditioning effect on the soil. So overall, a good thing. But I should clarify that the wood ash that I'm using is coming from a mixture of softwood and hardwood split like this. If you're talking about charcoal briquettes or coals, that you would use in your barbecue, that's not the same thing, and you should not use that in your garden. Let's have a look at the wood ash that I will use. Okay, a look into my ash can here, and you're going to see that there are big chunks like this that are like charcoal. And those will break up in your soil over a length of time. They're actually relatively inert, so they don't actually add a whole ton of nutrition to your plants, but what they will do is they'll break down over a long period of time, and during that time they will tend to improve the structure of your soil. Then there's this powdery type stuff here. That's the stuff that's going to release very, very quickly all of the nutrients that are in there. Now, what I will say is that not everything in my garden is in active growth right now. Maybe the hellebores are, but most everything else is relatively dormant. So if I wanted to save this for later and have the quick release to the plants, I would store it dry and then bring it out and put it on the plants in the spring. Otherwise, if I'm using it for something that's active growth right now, I'll put it out in the garden today. One particularly good candidate for using wood ash are hellebores. And two reasons for that. Right now it's winter and they're in active growth. You can see they're starting to put up new leaves, new flowers. So in active growth like that, they're going to be able to take advantage of all that release of nutrients right now. The second thing is that hellebores appreciate a slightly less acidic soil. They want something a little more neutral or even slightly alkaline. So the addition of wood ash will help to improve the soil for them. And as you can see, if you look real close, is I've already added a generous side dress of wood ash to both of these hellebores. One more interesting plant to use the wood ash on, because of its effects on pH, is Hydrangea. Now, Hydrangea is a plant that reacts to its pH by changing the color of its flowers. So with more acidic soil, it's going to turn blue, and with more alkaline soil, it's going to tend towards red. So just as a fun thing to do with my hydrangea here, I'm going to go with this side here for another video I'm making and turn it all alkaline or raise the pH, and on the other side I'm going to decrease the pH by putting down some aluminum sulfate. So ideally, if things work out, this side will be more red and that side will be more blue. And once again, just a generous side dressing of wood ash worked into the soil here, and that should do the trick. Alright, just a couple of cautions before I leave the topic alone here. As much as there are some plants that appreciate the addition of alkalinity or to raise the pH, there are other plants that don't like that so much. And in this I'm talking about blueberries, rhododendrons, azaleas, possibly potatoes as well. So have a look online and see which ones like a low pH and which ones like a high pH, and try to focus your wood ash on plants that appreciate the higher pH. One other thing I will say is, although it is kind of hard to overdo it on wood ash, if you dump them all in the same spot, that's probably a little bit unwise, because you can raise those salt levels in your soil to quite an extent if you're dumping it all in the same spot. So spread it around a little bit. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below the video.